Chapter 285. At dusk, Lin Muyu and Tang Xiaoxi followed Saintess Ling Huyen out of the demon-subduing pass, following the main road into the depths of the endless forest. There were corpses everywhere along the way. This was the road that the Seven Seas army had fought on a few days ago. The road was covered in messy hoof prints, and the corpses of imperial soldiers lay on both sides of the road. At this time, flies were flying everywhere, emitting a strong stench. Tang Xiaoxi frowned. These soldiers were all from the Seven Seas province, which also meant that they were soldiers of Tang Xiaoxi's family. Seeing them die in a foreign land was naturally not a good feeling. Lin Muyu could see that she couldn't bear to see it and urged her horse closer. She grasped her hand and said, "If it wasn't for these soldiers sacrificing their lives, the demon-subduing pass would have been broken before I arrived. Their sacrifice was worth it." Tang Xiaoxi didn't say much, but she knew very well that this sacrifice was actually worthless. This was a meaningless war. Torches were lit on both sides of the road. The Fox tribe soldiers set up defenses along the sides of the road, seemingly guarding against attacks from the snake men and lizard men. The Fox tribe was a highly intelligent race and knew the importance of Tang Xiaoxi, the queen. However, the snake men and lizard men were no different from wild beasts. They wouldn't buy it. As expected, snake men soldiers appeared on both sides of the road not far away. They held battle axes and spears, glaring fiercely at Tang Xiaoxi and Lin Muyu. Tang Xiaoxi was fine. Although she was wearing human clothing, the dancing 9 flame tails behind her were enough to prove that she was of the demon race. Lin Muyu, on the other hand, was a genuine human. The 3 golden stars on her collar shone with a frightening luster under the light of the flames. This was equivalent to telling the other races that she was a high-ranking human general. Rustle. Her palm moved lightly and grasped the hilt of her sword. Lin Muyu looked around with a cautious expression, the golden light within her body ready to summon the golden gourd to battle at any time. Ling Huyen saw clearly and said with a smile, "Don't worry, young general. Without my orders, these snake men won't attack you." Yes. Lin Muyu turned her head and looked into the distance. She saw 2 bearmen soldiers fighting over food in the grass, and the food was actually a human arm. The insignia on the arm was the garrison insignia of the Seven Seas city. These bearmen actually ate humans. Heavens! His whole body trembled slightly and he said in a stern voice, "Ling Huyen, you people eat people?" Ling Huyen was slightly taken aback and faintly said, "The Fox clan will never eat humans. But the snake men, bear men, and lizard men have very low intelligence and are only very low-level warriors. This is a kind of innate instinct of theirs, and we ask the young general to forgive us. It's already very difficult for the Fox clan to command them. If we let them restrain this natural instinct, I'm afraid it will be very difficult for the entire demon clan to unite." Lin Muyu remained silent. Tang Xiaoxi couldn't help but say, "No, absolutely not. We can't let them continue to eat people in the future. We must stop them, yes, your highness. This servant will do her best to change everything." The holy maiden said respectfully while looking at Lin Muyu's expression and said, "Young general, what are you thinking about?" Lin Muyu's hand did not move away from the hilt of his sword. He suddenly turned his face and his handsome face was covered in frost and he said in a cold voice, "I have an urge to lead the human army and sweep through the endless forest and kill all the demon clan." "You?" Ling Huyen felt a chill from the bottom of her heart. She believed that the young man in front of her would do this, and as long as he was willing, he had the ability to do it. "Young general, give the demon clan another chance. I will change everything in front of me," Ling Huyen said in a pleading tone. "Without the blood of the 9-tailed fairy fox as a guide, the holy power of the rebirth pool will become weaker and weaker, and the power of the Fox clan will also continue to weaken. So we are unable to control the overall situation, and we also have no way to completely control the snake men, bear men, and lizard men. But as long as Her Highness she adds new divine power to the rebirth pool, our Fox clan will be able to become the true rulers of the demon clan. Young general, please believe me." Lin Muyu slowly nodded and said, "You have all the time in the world to change." The demon clan's headquarters in the endless forest was not far away. It was about a 3-hour journey, and as they advanced, the surroundings became more prosperous. Ancient buildings appeared on both sides of the road, and there were more high-intelligence races like the Fox clan and the Deer men here. The snake men, lizard men, and the others were isolated outside the headquarters. Hiss hiss. A few snake men aggressively raised their weapons as if they wanted to attack Lin Muyu. But more than 10 Fox clan soldiers raised their scimitars and charged over. With a low roar, their scimitars were covered in flames, and they shouted at the snake men in a language that Lin Muyu did not understand, quickly driving away the group of snake men. It seemed that the combat strength of the Fox clan could not be underestimated, and those snake men were not easy to deal with. If they could defeat them, they would have fought. The reason they were driven away was only because they were afraid. We've reached the sacred altar. Ling Huyen dismounted and said with a smile, Your Highness, come with me. Tang Xiaoxi also dismounted. The sacred altar was surrounded by flames and it was very warm. She took off her robe and her 9 flame tails gently swayed behind her, making her look especially beautiful. On both sides of the sacred altar, there were countless Fox clan members that were devoutly kneeling down. None of them dared to raise their heads, as if the 9-tailed demon fox in front of them was a god that could not be blasphemed. In the pool of rebirth, the lake was sparkling under the moonlight. Ling Huyen respectfully said, This is the pool of rebirth. Your Highness, as long as a drop of your blood falls into the pool of rebirth, we will be able to save our Fox clan's imminent defeat. Tang Xiaoxi had a feeling of joy from the bottom of her heart as if she had returned to her hometown, which made her more convinced that what Ling Huyen said was true. This place indeed had an innate connection with her, and the pool of rebirth in front of her seemed to have lived in some reincarnation of another life. Tang Xiaoxi involuntarily stepped into the pool of rebirth. Her feet were surrounded by flames, and when she stepped on the water, she did not fall into it. Ripples appeared under her feet, which was magnificent and magnificent. Under the moonlight, Tang Xiaoxi took out the dagger at her waist and gently cut her finger. Suddenly, a few drops of blood fell into the pool. Fush! The blood splashed on the surface of the water, and instantly turned into a raging flame, which surged towards the whole pool of rebirth. The divine power was dense, and the sky was full of thunder and lightning, as if it was confirming an ancient legend. The next moment the whole pool of rebirth blossomed with golden light, which soared into the sky. Tang Xiaoxi just stood quietly on the water, bathing in the golden splendor of the sky. Her whole body was filled with a refreshing feeling, and it seemed that she was enjoying it very much. Even Ling Huyen knelt down, and her beautiful eyes were filled with excitement and joy. The pool of rebirth has recovered. Great, the pool of rebirth has recovered, great. After about 10 minutes, all the divine power seeped into the pool. Tang Xiaoxi turned back to Lin Muyu and said with a smile, Well, let's go to the Fountain of Immortality. Ling Huyen, take us to the Fountain of Immortality. Yes, Your Highness. Ling Huyen looked respectful and took the two to the back of the mountain, which was not too far away. Not long after, a clear spring appeared in front of them, and it was covered with a faint mist. It was actually a hot spring. We're here. Ling Huyen said with a light smile. The Fountain of Immortality is a holy land, and also a forbidden area of the Forest of Infinity. Ordinary Fox clan is not qualified to bathe here. Your Highness, please, this servant will go outside to guard you. Lin Muyu sat on a rock beside her and said, Then I'll guard here. Ling Huyen burst into laughter. In this case, won't the general see Your Highness's body? Tang Xiaoxi's pretty face blushed and said, Ling Huyen, you go down. It's fine, it's not like he hasn't seen. Lin Muyu also blushed. Look at you guys as if I'm that kind of person. You're not that kind of person. Tang Xiaoxi tilted her head and said with a smile. I'm doing this to protect you. Someone continued to quibble. Tang Xiaoxi turned her back and took off her clothes one by one. The mist lingered around her and it was hard to see her clearly. Not long after, the beautiful girl's naked body appeared in the moonlight under the lingering mist. Her snow-white and smooth skin was very enchanting, and the 9 flame tails gently swayed in the air, making the already stunning Tang Xiaoxi even more alluring. Stepping on the pebbles and entering the spring, a silky smooth feeling wrapped around her body, and Tang Xiaoxi couldn't help but moan with pleasure. Lin Muyu lay on a rock and looked up at the stars in the sky. He really didn't want to peep at a beauty bathing, but this place was in the inner circle of the Fox clan, and it was really too unsafe. He had to protect Tang Xiaoxi at all times. After nearly half an hour, Tang Xiaoxi also lay in the spring and soaked for half an hour. Moo moo. She shouted with a smile. What's wrong? Lin Muyu raised his head and said with a smile, don't tell me you want someone to scrub your back? In any case, I'm still a royal guard and I have to pay to scrub your back. Nope. Tang Xiaoxi stood up and said with an ecstatic smile, Moo, look at me. Under the moonlight, the girl's graceful figure was lingering in the mist. The 9 tails behind Tang Xiaoxi had disappeared, and her eyes had changed from golden to beautiful black. She looked at Lin Muyu with a smile and said excitedly, look at me, I've changed back. Lin Muyu was stunned and couldn't help but look down and said, and after not seeing you for a few months, you've developed quite a bit. Ah, you scoundrel. Tang Xiaoxi pouted and hurriedly sat back in the spring and said, all right, turn around, I'll put on my clothes. A few minutes later, Tang Xiaoxi had already put on a young girl's outfit in the capital, and looked at him with a smile. How do you feel now? Can you still change back to the 9 tails? Lin Muyu asked with a smile. After becoming a 9-tailed fox demon, your strength has doubled. You need this kind of power. Yes. Tang Xiaoxi smiled slightly, and her beautiful eyes were quickly covered with a layer of gold. The light behind her sword and the 9 golden flame tails danced quietly. She said with a smile, do you have any questions? Yes. Lin Muyu pondered for a moment. I really want to know if there's a hole at the back of your shirt. Otherwise, how could the 9 tails extend out? If there's a hole when you return to your human form, will you be able to see everything at the back? Tang Xiaoxi blushed and didn't know how to answer. Chapter 286. Early in the morning mist lingered in the demon race's headquarters in the endless forest. The distant building was simple and unadorned, but it also seemed like a holy object enshrouded in immortal qi. When Lin Muyu pushed open the door, 2 young girls of the Fox clan were holding a basin of clean water outside. They respectfully said, My lord, we have come to help your highness get up and change your clothes. Lin Muyu nodded. Go in. Tang Xiaoxi washed up while Lin Muyu leaned against the railing and looked at the scene in the distance. A group of youths of the Fox clan were urging their warhorses to gallop on the drill ground. They were training cavalry tactics such as stabbing, hacking, and encirclement. It seemed that after their failure decades ago, the demon race seemed to be looking for tactics to deal with the heavy cavalry of the humans. On the side, Saintess Ling Huyen was sitting on the stone platform under the railing. She said with a smile, Young general, how are the light cavalry of our Fox clan? Average. Lin Muyu rubbed his nose. He was not lying. The skills and writing skills of these youths of the Fox clan were indeed very immature compared to those of the Imperial Army, Forbidden Army, and Longdan Army camp. Their understanding of cavalry tactics was only superficial. However, he still narrowed his eyes and said, But the warhorses of the Fox clan are indeed of excellent quality. Their speed and charging power are both considered top-notch. Young general has good eyesight. Ling Huyen said with a smile. The warhorses of our Fox clan are all wild horses captured from the grasslands to the northwest of the endless forest. They are naturally wild and in terms of leg strength and endurance, they are definitely much better than the warhorses of the Central Plains. Why don't Ling Huyen make the decision on her own and gift the young general a warhorse? Lin Muyu's eyes lit up. In this world, a warhorse was equivalent to a carriage, signifying a person's mobility. Naturally, Lin Muyu was overjoyed and said with a smile, Can I really? Ling Huyen burst into laughter, covering her small mouth as she said, Young general is Princess Xi's closest relative, and also the person who resolved the conflict between the demon clan and the humans. If it weren't for young general, our demon clan's rebirth pool would not have been filled with divine power again. You are the benefactor of our demon clan, so a warhorse is naturally nothing. Ling Huyen has already ordered servants to bring the 2 best horses in the Forest of Infinity over. You and Princess Xi will each have one. What do you think? Very good. Lin Muyu nodded and said with a smile. At this moment, Tang Xiaoxi walked out of the door dressed in luxurious clothes. This was the beautiful embroidery unique to the Empire's Lanyan city, and together with the Fire Fox emblem of Qihai City, it was very beautiful. What was even rarer was that the Fire Fox family emblem of Qihai City was actually similar to the emblem of the Fox clan in the Endless Forest. This caused Ling Huyen to stare dumbfounded. She bowed and said, "Servant Ling who greets Princess Xi. Wow, your highness's clothes are so beautiful. The craftsmanship of the humans is truly wonderful." Tang Xiaoxi chuckled and said, "Ling Hu, if you want it, I will customize a set according to your figure when I return to the imperial capital and send someone to deliver it to you. What do you think?" "Thank you, Princess Xi." Ling Huyen smiled and thanked her with a red face. It seemed that although she was the supreme ruler of the Fox clan, she was still a young girl of the Fox clan after all, so she yearned for beautiful things just like human girls. Tang Xiaoxi smiled and asked, "What were you talking about just now? I heard that you were going to give me a gift." "Yes." Ling Huyen nodded and said, "Young General has high praise for our Fox clan's warhorses, so this servant has decided to choose the 2 best warhorses of the Fox clan to gift to young General and Princess Xi. Here they are already here. Come with me to take a look." As they walked down the pavilion, 2 sturdy Fox clan soldiers led the warhorses over. One was white and the other was black. The white one was a mare and the black one was a stallion. Ling Huyen smiled and said, "These are 2 warhorses that I tamed 2 years ago. The white one is called Snow Pear, and the black one is called Danger Ground. I named them myself, but if Princess Xi and young General are not satisfied with them, you can rename them." Lin Muyu chuckled and said, "I'm satisfied, how could I not be satisfied? Xiaoxi, with your personality you must want Snow Pear, right?" Tang Xiaoxi nodded and said, "Yes, Mu wants Danger Ground. Danger Ground is more robust and suits you better." "Yes." Lin Muyu walked forward and caressed Danger Ground's face. She subconsciously used the spirit pulse technique, and the beast taming power of the spirit communication technique slowly seeped into the warhorse's brain. They instantly formed a preliminary contract. Danger Ground raised its head and neighed. It then walked forward and rubbed its head against Lin Muyu's arm. The Fox clan soldier leading the horse was stunned and said, "Heavens! What is it?" Although Danger Ground has been tamed into a warhorse, no one has ever been able to tame it. Even the most outstanding warrior of the Fox clan cannot ride Danger Ground. But now Lin Muyu smiled slightly and said, "It means that it is fated with me, ha." As she spoke, she pulled on the reins and flipped onto the horse. Danger Ground was instantly excited and suddenly stood up with a long neigh. Under Lin Muyu's scolding, it galloped away at an astonishing speed. It turned back in the blink of an eye and brought with it the wind. Tang Xiaoxi giggled and said, "Mu, do you like it?" "I like it." Lin Muyu praised from the bottom of her heart, "I have never ridden such a good horse in my life." Ling Huyen was also extremely happy and said, "It's great that the young general likes it. Your Highness Xi, this Snow Pear has a gentle temperament, but its speed is not slow either. Do you want to try it?" "There's no need." Tang Xiaoxi smiled and walked forward. After flipping onto the horse, she said, "Since the matter with the Fox clan has been settled, I should return to the Demon Suppression Pass. Ling Huyen, you must guard the Endless Forest well and truly control the entire demon clan. At the very least, you can't let those snake people and bear people recklessly attack humans or even eat them." Ling Huyen nodded respectfully and said, "And this servant understands. Your Highness Xi, please rest assured." "Good. We will return. Yes, this servant will escort your Highness back." In the early morning, after a simple breakfast, the Fox clan sent out a total of 300 guards to escort Lin Muyu and Tang Xiaoxi back to the Demon Suppression Pass. They really did not have any more troops because the main force of the Fox clan had all been captured and imprisoned in the camp of the Demon Suppression Pass along with tens of thousands of deer demons. After Lin Muyu used the power of the Conquest chapter to communicate with the warhorse, she did not need to lead the horse at all. She could control the warhorse's movements with just her consciousness. This greatly improved her horsemanship skills. She knew what kind of speed she could achieve in a dangerous situation, so she could fight on the horse without any distractions. After leaving the Fox clan's canyon, the corpses of the human soldiers on both sides of the road had already been cleaned and buried. It was probably the work of the human army led by Tang Zhen. However, there were still some snake people, lizard men, and other demon clans that harbored evil intentions on both sides of the road. Their eyes did not show any signs of humanity, only their desire and greed for food. Hiss hiss. A snake person stared at Lin Muyu, and the long halberd in his hand also seemed to be ready to attack. Lin Muyu glanced at him out of the corner of her eye. Her eyes were filled with a strong killing intent, and the snake person actually understood her gaze. Suddenly, the snake person was so frightened that he let go of the hand holding the long halberd. With a ding, the long halberd fell to the ground. He curled up his body and bent down in the direction of Lin Muyu, as if he was submitting to her. This was the law of nature, the survival of the fittest. The powerful aura that Lin Muyu exuded was enough to intimidate this snake person. However, after walking for a short distance, Lin Muyu's spiritual pulse technique suddenly appeared in the dense aura of experts. Many of them were in the human realm and earth realm. They were all in the forest on the side less than 500 meters away from each other. Xiaoxi, Linghu, you two go first. I suddenly have to go to the forest over there to solve the problem. Lin Muyu pretended to be embarrassed. Ling Huyen chuckled. Young general is really interesting. Tang Xiaoxi was a little speechless. Mu, sometimes I really don't know what to say about you. I told you to drink less soup in the morning, but you just can't help it. That's because the Fox Clan's soup is so delicious. Okay, I'm going. I'll catch up with you in a while. Lin Muyu pulled the reins and Danger Ground flew out like a wisp of smoke, galloping into the forest in the blink of an eye. As expected, a group of 7 Seas city soldiers were squatting there with bows and spears in their hands. There were even many people holding shields and leading war horses. There were at least 10,000 people and they looked like they were ready to attack at any time. Who are you? A Chiliarch shouted in a low voice. Lin Muyu spurred her horse into a cauliflower field and her face was livid. Are you crazy? What do you want to do? It's young general, the group of soldiers saluted respectfully. Greetings, young general. In the crowd, Tang Zhen held a steel saber and looked at Lin Muyu with a pale face. Young general, how did you find out we were lying in ambush here? You don't need to know that. I only have one question. What do you want to do here? Tang Zhen, answer me. Lin Muyu said coldly. Tang Zhen saluted with some apprehension, but he couldn't hide the hatred on his face. Young general, our 7 Seas city's army of 70,000 died in this barren land. They were all the sons of our children's fathers and mothers and they died in battle here just like that. When we came here to collect the corpses, we found that many of their corpses were incomplete. They were actually eaten by those Nagas as food. Young general, if we don't take revenge for this, we're not human. Tang Zhen, Lin Muyu said sternly. Are you trying to put me and Princess Xi in an inhumane and unjust situation? We've just negotiated peace with the demon race and you want to start another war. Can you bear this responsibility? Tang Zhen was also an unyielding man. He raised his steel saber and said, Young general, I will bear the consequences of my own actions. The 10,000 soldiers of 7 Seas City behind me are willing to fight for hatred. Even if we all die here, at least we have a clear conscience. If the demonic beasts are not eliminated, there will be no true peace in the world. Lin Muyu gritted her teeth. Fine, now Tang Xiaoxi is in their hands. If you launch a surprise attack, Tang Xiaoxi will definitely die. You killed Tang Xiaoxi for hatred. Is this your clear conscience? Tang Zhen was speechless. Lin Muyu dismounted and reached out to pat Tang Zhen's shoulder. Brother, I also hate the cruelty of these Nagas. I also hate that so many Imperial soldiers died in vain. But this is the price of war. Give up. Follow me back to Demon Subduing Pass. Cancel this surprise attack. This is my military order as the commander of the frontline army. Tang Zhen lowered his gaze. After a while he nodded and said, Yes, your subordinate obeys. Brothers, retreat. Chapter 287. In the Demon Subduing Pass, Qin Yin stood on the gate, looking at the troops in the distance with her beautiful eyes. Finally Lin Muyu and Tang Xiaoxi came back. Looking from afar, Tang Xiaoxi's fox ears had disappeared and were replaced by human ears. This made Qin Yin extremely excited. She said with a smile, General Feng Xiaoxi has returned to her original appearance. Feng Jixing nodded and smiled. Yes, I just don't know if Beauty Linghu has chosen a fox beauty as a wife for me. Qin Yin. After Lin Muyu, Tang Xiaoxi and Ling Huyen entered the pass, Qin Yin and Feng Jixing immediately went to greet them. Tang Zhen and the others also followed. It was a large group of people. Xiaoxi, did you succeed? Qin Yin asked with a smile. Yes. Tang Xiaoxi chuckled. That's good. On the side, Feng Jixing was a little disappointed because Ling Huyan didn't take the matter of choosing a wife for him to heart. Perhaps in Ling Huyan's view, Feng Jixing was handsome and powerful. Besides, as the commander of an army, it was impossible that no girls would like such a man. With so many young girls in Lanyan City, how could Feng Jixing not worry about women? But in fact, General Feng had always been obsessed with military affairs and rarely went out to play with women. Of course, it was only a matter of rarely. Standing on the gate, Lin Muyu looked back at the group of demon soldiers imprisoned in the pass. They were unarmed and could only fight back with the instinct of the demon race. At this time it was easy to kill them, but it also meant that they would lose the alliance with the demon race. Even if they killed these 5 elites and Ling Huyan, the saintess inside the pass, what could they do? The reward would be nothing more than more cruel revenge from the Naga and lizard men. At that time the Empire would probably pay a greater price. Open the door and release the demon captives. Lin Muyu gave a simple order. Instantly the group of 7 Seas City captaincy fell silent. One of them cupped his fists and said, "Young general, are we really going to release them? If that's the case, it might be equivalent to releasing a tiger back into the mountains." Lin Muyu furrowed her brows and said, "The demons and humans have already formed an alliance. There's no need for us to waste more manpower and resources here. The Empire's treasury has always been empty, and we can't afford to waste more resources here." "But young general," he wanted to say more, but Lin Muyu turned to Su Ying and asked, "Old General Su, what do you think?" Su Ying's eyes flickered with the light of wisdom. He cupped his fists and said with a smile, "This old general will listen to young general. Young general is the supreme commander of demon suppressing pass. Young general's military orders are like a mountain, no one dares to disobey." When he said this, the group of 7 Seas City captaincy immediately didn't know what to say. Lin Muyu raised her hand and loudly ordered, "Open the gate and release the demon captives." To the side, Feng Jixing saw this and couldn't help but cast a look of approval. Meanwhile, Qin Yin followed behind Lin Muyu with a smile, looking like a little sister. If not for the fact that she was dressed as an imperial princess, others might really think that she was Lin Muyu's little sister. With the sound of iron chains twisting, the heavy iron gate slowly rose, and the gates of the cages opened one after another. The next moment Ling Huyan appeared below the gate and said with a smile, "Brave warriors of the demon race, we are going home." The group of demon soldiers cheered and leapt as they left. Lin Muyu stood at the gate and cupped her fists to Ling Huyan, who was riding on horseback, saying, "Saintess, we will meet again. Since we have already formed an alliance, the imperial soldiers of demon suppressing pass will not cross this gate. I also hope that the demon race will not offend you and will not repeatedly provoke and invade the borders of the empire." Ling Huyan bowed on horseback and said with a smile, "Rest assured, young general. Ling Hu understands." As she spoke, she respectfully bowed to Tang Xiaoxi and said, "Your Highness, this servant is returning to the Forest of Infinity. The Forest of Infinity welcomes your Highness home at any time. The hundreds of thousands of demon soldiers in the Forest of Infinity are at your Highness's disposal at any time." Tang Xiaoxi smiled and nodded. "Go, Ling Huyan." "Yes." Ling Huyan turned around, pulled the reins and slowly left with the group of captives. Lin Muyu took a deep breath. The chaos of the demon race had finally been settled. "Pa." Feng Jixing slapped Lin Muyu's shoulder and said with a smile, "Good lad, the chaos has been settled. The problem that Yuan Xie couldn't solve even after losing 70,000 soldiers was solved by you without shedding a single drop of blood. This time when you return to Lanyan City, you will definitely make a great contribution. His Majesty will definitely reward you well." Lin Muyu laughed bitterly. "Reward me? I'll thank the heavens if he doesn't lock me up in prison." "Ha ha ha." Feng Jixing laughed heartily. "All right, now that the chaos has been settled, you can come back with us to the imperial capital to hand in your orders. His Majesty has already ordered me to leave the Imperial Guard's Chili Arch, Sun Kailan, to guard the demon subduing pass. Look, it's him." Behind Feng Jixing, a bearded general of about 40 years old cupped his fists and said, "This general obeys. I will definitely guard the demon subduing pass." Lin Muyu smiled and stepped forward to pat his shoulder. "General Sun, guard this place well. Remember, the humans and the demon race have already formed an alliance. We must never provoke them. The only thing you have to do is to guard the pass and never take a step further. Even if the demon race provokes you, you must endure it. Do you understand? Sun Kailan said respectfully. This general has learned his lesson. Rest assured, young general. This general knows what to do. Good. Brother Feng, Xiaoyin and Xiaoxi, let's return to Lanyan City. All right. After lunch they set out on their way back. There were still many wounded soldiers groaning miserably in the barracks below the city. Fortunately, the spiritual medicine department had sent over a lot of medicine, so there were basically no more casualties. However, Wuxia had lost 7 imperial warriors in the battle at the demon subduing pass and killed no more than 5 of the enemy. This kind of crushing defeat was extremely rare after Qin Jin's ascension to the throne. Presumably, Wuxia's position as the protector of the nation could no longer be maintained. Along the way, all living things on earth were recovering, flowers were blooming in the warmth of spring, and rape flowers were blooming all over the ground. Tang Xiaoxi had returned to her original self and everyone was in a good mood. However, when Feng Jixing talked about his experiences in the dragon-seeking forest, he learned about Elder Jing. So Sima Jing was killed by you. Feng Jixing muttered to himself. Sima Jing followed Duke Lan on expeditions for many years and was one of Duke Lan's most capable and trusted subordinates. He was also one of the soldiers of the river-subduing army personally conferred by His Majesty. Who would have thought? Lin Muyu grabbed the reins of Jietti and said, I didn't want to kill him at first, but this Elder Jing was too overbearing. Moreover, I overheard his conversation with Tang Bin. When they first entered the dragon-seeking forest, he already had the intention to kill Xiaoxi. To the side, Tang Xiaoxi's body trembled slightly. Her eyes were slightly red as she said, I. Qin Yin gently held her hand and comforted her. Xiaoxi doesn't need to blame yourself. This isn't your fault. Feng Jixing sighed. The Seven Seas province is vast and populous, and the Seven Seas city is one of the 7 great cities of the empire. To be honest, this temptation is too great, and it's normal that Tang Bin couldn't resist it. However, now that the legend of Xiaoxi's 9-tailed fox has been solved, she has obtained a new identity. Her Royal Highness of the Endless Forest, controlling an army of over 100,000 demons. This matter definitely can't be hidden. Duke Lan will soon find out about this. At that time, I'm afraid that Duke Lan will hand over the inheritance of the Seven Seas city to Xiaoxi without hesitation, right? Qin Yin chuckled. Congratulations, Xiaoxi. This is a blessing in disguise. From now on, the scepter of the Seven Seas province should be under Xiaoxi's control. Tang Xiaoxi's expression was a little sad. Even so, it's just a scepter stained with the blood of my loved ones. Lin Muyu looked up at the willow catkins floating in the sky and said with a smile, This is how the world is. Xiaoxi, you should try to accept it as soon as possible. By the way, Brother Feng, I met a group of very strange wandering mercenaries on my way to the dragon's tomb. Strange mercenaries? Feng Jixing laughed. Mercenaries are mercenaries. They're all people who can eat, drink, gamble, smoke, cheat and steal. What's so strange about it? Lin Muyu said. They recognize that I'm from the holy sanctum, but still wanted to attack me. Moreover, this group of mercenaries is very strong and they've basically stepped into the human realm. Logically speaking, such a group of people doesn't need to be wandering mercenaries at all. They can have a foothold anywhere. Moreover, the swordsmanship they use is very strange. I've never seen it in Lanyan City. Feng Jixing was stunned. What kind of strange swordsmanship? Show me. Yes. Lin Muyu tried hard to recall. Then he pulled out the dragon spirit sword and waved it a few times on the horse. The air was filled with the light of the sword and it was very beautiful. After a few seconds he sheathed the sword and said with a frown, That's it. The swordsmanship is very strange and I still remember it clearly. Feng Jixing's body trembled and he said, This is Lingnan swordsmanship. Lingnan swordsmanship. Lin Muyu was stunned. Swordsmanship from Lingnan? So, this group of wandering mercenaries is from Lingnan? It's not what you think. Feng Jixing frowned and said, As everyone knows, the Qinling Mountains divide the empire's territory into 2 parts. There are a total of 8 provinces in the north and 4 in the south. Every winter the mountains are sealed by heavy snow, and the Qinling Mountains cannot be crossed. So, the north and the south are almost isolated from each other. The most prosperous province in Lingnan is the Lingnan province. which is the fief of the Southern Guardian King Qin Yi. The Southern Guardian King created a set of military swordsmanship called the Lingnan swordsmanship. Every soldier in the Lingnan army will practice the Lingnan swordsmanship. The crux of the problem lies here. How could a group of wandering mercenaries from the Lingnan province know how to use the Lingnan swordsmanship? Lin Muyu couldn't help but feel a chill run down her spine. Brother Feng, you mean to say that this group of wandering mercenaries is actually from the Lingnan Empire's army? Yes. Feng Jixing nodded. For the past year I always felt that a storm was coming. Now it seems that it is really coming. At the side, Qin Yin blinked her eyes and said, Second uncle, he shouldn't have any disloyal intentions, right? After all, he is father's younger brother and, although the Lingnan province has sufficient military strength, it should not be able to contend against the 8 provinces of the Lingnan province. Moreover, there is still the natural moat of the Qinling Mountains between the north and the south. Feng Jixing nodded. Yes, that is true, but there are always accidents. When we return to the imperial capital, Your Highness, you and I will report this matter to His Majesty together. Chapter 288. Late at night, the interior of the Zetian Palace was brightly lit. The palace maids had lit up the Crane Palace lanterns. The light from the lanterns gathered together and swayed with a gust of wind. After dismissing a few officials, Qin Jin left behind only Qin Yin, Tang Xiaoxi, Feng Jixing, Lin Muyu, Qin Lei, Chu Huaying and the other people close to him. He asked with a serious expression, Is what General Feng said true? Are those mercenaries skilled in the Lingnan sword style? Lin Muyu nodded. Yes, what General Feng said is true. Qin Jin muttered. Who do you think these wandering mercenaries are after? The Dragon Forest is filled with danger. These wandering mercenaries would not barge in without a purpose. In fact, there is no need to guess. They are also after Xiaoxi, Lin Muyu said calmly. Tang Xiaoxi was slightly startled. She said, Even if they are from the Lingnan Empire, why are they looking for me? Qin Yin's beautiful eyes shone with wisdom. She said, Xiaoxi, you are Duke Lan's most cherished descendant and one of the successors of the entire Seven Seas province. Therefore, there are only 2 reasons why the Lingnan army is looking for you. First, they want to save you and then claim credit from Duke Lan to build a good relationship with the Seven Seas province. Second, they want to bring you back to Lingnan after finding you and use you to threaten Duke Lan. These are the only 2 reasons. Tang Xiaoxi was silent. There was an indescribable sadness in her eyes. When did the carefree her become an important chess piece on the chessboard of the empire? Feng Jixing took a deep breath and cupped his fists. Thinking about how the House of Chivalry has tried to make a move against Xiaoxi time and time again, this seems to make more sense. The House of Chivalry's influence in Lingnan has not been affected in the slightest by the imperial edict and is still growing strong. I believe that the true mastermind behind the House of Chivalry is perhaps one of the powerful ministers in Lingnan. One of the powerful ministers. Qin Jin's eyes shone brightly as he said, Lei. Qin Lei cupped his fists and said, This subordinate is here. Summon your father to Lanyan City tomorrow morning. I haven't seen my 3rd brother for a long time. Yes, I understand. Qin Jin raised his head to look at the crowd again and said, Feng Jixing, tighten the security of the imperial capital. Chu Huayao, you must finish the reorganization of the Flying Mount Battalion within 3 days. I want an invincible Flying Mount Battalion to protect the imperial capital. Chu Huaijin cupped his fists. I will not let you down. Qin Jin then looked at Lin Muyu. His gaze softened as he said, Son, you have done a great service in quelling the demon race's war. Also, you saved Princess Xiaoxi in the dragon-seeking forest by yourself, which is also a great service. However, I really don't know how to reward you for killing Tang Bin by mistake. Now, what kind of reward do you want? Lin Muyu thought for a moment, then cupped his fists and said, Father, I don't want anything else. I only ask that you give me 20,000 Empire Army badges. Is that okay? Empire Army badges? Qin Jin was surprised. What do you want these for? Lin Muyu explained. Does father still remember the Longdan army camp? This mercenary group is under my control, but mercenaries are mercenaries after all. They don't have a final goal, so I hope that father can secretly bestow me 20,000 Empire Army badges. This way the Longdan army camp will belong to the Imperial Army, just not directly under the control of the Ministry of War. This way I can comfort the hearts of these mercenaries. This way, even if there are any changes in the future, their blood and tears will still flow for the Empire. All right. Qin Jin stood up excitedly and said, everyone needs comfort. We will definitely not let the Longdan army camp down. Someone immediately ordered the Ministry of Works to quickly cast 20,000 Empire Army badges made of pure gold and hand them to Lin Muyu. Yes, Your Majesty. An attendant received the order from a distance and left. Is there anything else that you need? Qin Jin asked with a smile. He seemed to feel that these 20,000 badges were far from enough to make up for Lin Muyu's achievements. However, Lin Muyu shook her head and said, there's no need for anything else. You really don't need it? Qin Jin smiled. The protector of the state, Wuxia, made a mistake in command in the Battle of Demon Subduing Pass, causing the Seven Seas province to lose nearly 70,000 elite soldiers. I've already stripped him of his military position. I was originally planning to give this third-rank military rank to you. Lin Muyu was stunned. Father wants to promote me? That's naturally good. Just do it. Qin Jin couldn't help but laugh. Good. Immediately promote Lin Muyu to rank 3 National General. Her salary and duties will be promoted accordingly. She will be specially granted the Dragon Talisman and can mobilize no more than 20,000 troops within the Empire's borders at any time. Thank you, Father. Lin Muyu sincerely expressed his thanks. This time the power in his hands was even greater. Qin Jin had adopted him as his son without any title or other rewards. So many people didn't even care about him as a prince. But now that he had been promoted to rank 3 National General, it was likely that those people would no longer be able to not look up to him. Suddenly, the words of the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor echoed in his heart. If you want others to respect you, you must first make them fear you. These words really made sense. In the middle of the night, he sent Tang Xiaoxi back to the Duke's mansion. Tang Xiaoxi had just obtained 3 Fire God's seal fragments, so she naturally had to cultivate well. As for Lin Muyu, he returned to the Holy Temple to rest. After all, the Holy Temple was his home. As for the National General, the seals had already been placed in the Cosmos sack. Qin Jin wanted to build a new residence for him in the imperial capital, but he probably wouldn't be able to move in for the time being. The next day, when Lin Muyu attended the morning court as the National General, a shocking piece of news arrived. A little earlier, Zheng Yifan had sent a memorial to Qin Jin, requesting to retire and return to his hometown. In the end, Qin Jin had agreed. At the same time that everyone was attending court, the Divine Marquis residence was already packing their luggage and preparing to move back to their hometown in Tianshu province. At this point, Lanyan City could be considered to have truly changed. The conservative forces led by Zheng Yifan had gradually lost their pillar of support, while Lin Muyu, Chu Huaying, Zhang Wei and the others who had been groomed by Qin Jin all held military power. The world of Lanyan City had truly become the world of the Qin family. In the main hall, Prince Jining Qin Jin placed his hand on the hilt of his sword and said with a smile, "Royal brother, I wonder why you have summoned me here this time? Could it be that you want me to go fishing with you again?" Qin Jin couldn't help but burst into laughter. Third brother must be joking. Recently, I have been busy with government affairs and have no time to go fishing. However, there is indeed a matter that requires both of us to complete and we really want to go fishing. Oh, what do you mean? Qin Jin asked with a smile. As Prince Jining, Qin Jin didn't hold any military power. On the day Qin Jin ascended to the throne, Qin Jin had handed over all military power and no longer meddled in government affairs. Therefore he had a good reputation as Prince Jining in Lanyan City. Not fighting was the best strategy. Qin Jin nodded and muttered, "Third brother, how long has it been since you last saw your second brother?" "Second brother?" Qin Kuang smiled. "About 5 years. Yes, it's been 5 years in the blink of an eye." Qin Jin sighed and said, "It's been 5 years since the 3 of us have gathered together. Now that spring is in full bloom, I plan to let Xiao Yin oversee the country for a month and meet up with you, second brother, to go fishing at Fairy Lake in Dubhe province. We can relive the joy of childhood. What do you think, third brother?" Qin Jin was overjoyed and said with a smile, "I'm so happy that Imperial brother has this idea. As long as Imperial brother issues an Imperial edict, the three of us will be able to reunite at Fairy Lake. No, I have to go back and tidy up the fine wine in the residence. We can fish and enjoy the wine at the same time. That's the joy of brothers. Qin laughed and said, yes, then let's do it this way. Xiaoyin has grown up and it's time for her to gain some experience. I will be leaving the capital for a month. During this month, all the state affairs will be handed over to Her Highness. I hope that all the officials can do their best to assist my daughter. I'm afraid the Qin Empire will have to rely on all of you in the future. The officials all knelt on the ground. Rest assured, Your Majesty. We will do our best to assist Her Highness Yin. Yes. Qin nodded and said, third brother, then write a letter and send it to Lingnan with my imperial edict. Once second brother's reply is received, we will head to Dubhe province together. Yes, Your Majesty. At this moment Feng Jixing cupped his fists and said, Your Majesty, shall I lead the imperial guards to Dubhe province with you as guards? Qin waved his hand and said, the imperial guards have the heavy responsibility of protecting the capital. They are not allowed to leave Lanyan City. Qin Lei said, then this general will lead the imperial guards to protect her. Qin smiled slightly and said, the imperial guards have to protect Xiaoyin and are not allowed to leave without permission. Qin was stunned. Then what army does imperial brother plan to bring to Dubhe province? There will be bandits running amok along the way and it's not very safe. How can we go without enough troops? Qin smiled. I will transfer 50,000 elite soldiers from the Tianchong army, and 40,000 soldiers from the Longquan army to guard the imperial mausoleum. When we pass through Tsangnan province, I will ask Si Kongfan for another 10,000 elite soldiers. 100,000 elite soldiers will follow us to Dubhe province. That should be enough, right? Enough. Qin was extremely excited and said with a smile, back then the three of us brothers would fish, play chess, ride and shoot every day. Now that we are old, if we can relive the happiness of our childhood once again, it would be enough even if we die. The third brother, you are a straightforward person, but your words are really inauspicious. After the discussion, Qin asked Lin Muyu to stay and accompany him and Qin Yin for lunch. At noon, Qin, the emperor of the empire, once again put on an apron and began to cook lunch. Every time he cooked, he would do it himself and did not need anyone's help. From cutting the vegetables to lighting the fire and cooking, he did it all by himself. As for Lin Muyu and Qin Yin, their task was to wait at the side for the meal to be served. Imperial father, are you really going to Dubhe province to fish? Lin Muyu asked. Qin smiled. Yes, we three brothers of the Qin clan have not gathered for a long time. However, Qin Yin had a worried look on her face. What if second uncle really has the intention to be disloyal? That is a matter between brothers, so let it be settled between brothers. There is no need to use weapons, Qin said with a slight smile. Lin Muyu asked, what if the Prince of Zhennan, Qin Yi, does not accept imperial father's invitation? The knife in Qin Jin's hand that was cutting vegetables suddenly tightened, and with a paw sound, it was hammered into the wooden board. He said indifferently, then it will give me a good reason to send troops to Lingnan. I have already sent a letter to Duke Lan and Duke Yun. As long as Lingnan has the intention to be disloyal, Lingbei will send 700,000 soldiers to cross the Qinling Mountains and redraw the territory of the empire at all costs. Chapter 289. In the afternoon, Lin Muyu made a trip to the Longdan Army Camp's post house in Lanyan City. She discovered that the post house had expanded quite a bit. It had swallowed up a pharmacy on the side, flattened the houses, and built a small drill ground in the imperial capital where every inch of land was worth its weight in gold. When Lin Muyu walked through the door, she could see the figures of dozens of cavalrymen practicing their battle techniques from afar. The person in charge of the post house was the tiger-level commander Zhou Xian. After not seeing him for a long time, he had actually cultivated from the first level of the Earth Realm to the second level. His cultivation had greatly increased, and the charm in his eyes had become more reserved. My lord. Zhou Xian brought Lin Muyu into the depths of the post house and said with a smile, Deputy Commander Luo, you asked me to tell you that the Longdan Army Camp currently has more than 20,000 elite soldiers. Moreover, they are all well-trained and well-equipped. In addition, the Dragon Rocky village at the foot of the mountain is constantly being moved here to settle down. The total population has already exceeded 100,000. Lin Muyu nodded. The houses should have long since been insufficient, right? Yes, but they are constantly being expanded. In addition, Lord Luo Yu has sent 5 patrol teams to patrol the village around the clock. The security of this Dragon Rocky village is not inferior to that of Lanyan City. That's good. Do you have any other requests? Yes. Luo Jian touched his nose and smiled. Lord Luo Yu wants more white diamond arrows, so she sent me to transport 100,000 arrows to the imperial capital. There were a total of 10 carts, but when we passed through the north gate of Lanyan City, we were stopped by the imperial guards. They believed that this batch of steel arrows was more than what a martial artist could carry. They thought that our Longdan army camp had crossed the line and smuggled military supplies. Damn, Lin Muyu grinned. In a while, take my ribbon seal and ask for the things back. After the imperial guards see my ribbon seal, they will definitely let us go. Even if His Majesty has given his permission, they will not stop us. Yes. There is one more thing. What is it, guild leader? I've applied to His Majesty and asked the Ministry of Works to forge 20,000 badges of the Imperium for the Longdan army camp. They'll be shipped here soon. Take these badges back to Dragon Rocky Mountain and tell our brothers that His Majesty knows of their existence and recognizes them as warriors who fight for the Imperium. Let them train and improve their combat ability with peace of mind, so that they can become a powerful troop in Lanyan City that cannot be ignored. Yes. Luo Jian was overjoyed and said with a smile, everyone will be overjoyed when they see this batch of emblems, especially Lady Luo Yu. Lin Muyu nodded. She also knew that Luo Yu's ancestor was Luo Tonghai, who was ranked second among the Soaring Clouds Pavilion's 26 meritorious subjects. Luo Yu's greatest wish was to become a famous general like her ancestor. Joining the Empire's army was the first step, but it was also a very precious first step. Not long after, a cart of golden badges was transported over by the officers from the Ministry of Works. Lin Muyu personally signed the receipt and sent the people from the Ministry of Works away. When she opened the box, she saw a golden light in front of her. She picked up a badge and looked at it. The people from the Ministry of Works were indeed skilled and ingenious. This badge was not much different from the Imperial Army's common military badge. The golden purple flower was very dazzling, but there was a small engraving of the words Longdan Army Camp at the bottom of the badge. This was truly an honor that no other army had ever had. Luo Jian was grinning from ear to ear. He picked up a badge and buckled it on his armor. He said with a smile, in this case, the Imperial Guards will no longer obstruct our movements when we enter and leave the Imperial capital. Yes. Right at this time, the sound of wheels turning could be heard from outside. The arrows from the 10 carriages were about to arrive. Lin Muyu immediately leapt up her horse and said, send all these arrows to the temple. Yes. They returned to the temple and had an early dinner. Then they started working in the head deacon's office. The temple guards carried bundles of arrows in and piled them in front of Lin Muyu. There were too many of them and it was really a headache. In the blink of an eye, there was a mountain of arrows in front of him. He could not help but feel his scalp go numb. However, when he thought about the power of the white diamond arrowheads, he obediently refined them. These white diamond arrowheads were deadly weapons and they could also protect him. No matter how much effort he put in, it would be worth it. He took out the treasure refining cauldron and took out 4 white diamond crystals at the same time. He quickly refined them and extracted the essence of the white diamond crystals and plated them on the steel arrowheads. This was a boring and tedious task and it was also very exhausting. After an entire night, he had only smelted 20,000 white diamond arrowheads. There was still a lot of work left. *C. Looking at the mountain of arrows, Lin Muyu slowly collapsed on the office chair, panting heavily. The combat energy in her body was almost drained by the treasure refining cauldron. She needed to rest and rely on the golden gourd martial spirit to absorb the spiritual energy from the heaven and earth to replenish her depleted combat energy. In an instant, the golden gourd turned into a faint golden light that enveloped Lin Muyu's body, as if it was plated with a layer of gold. Indeed, after stepping into the second sky of the heavenly realm, the green gourd martial spirit had undergone a huge change. In the words of Lei Hong and Chu Chu, It was impossible to accurately determine whether the Golden Gourd martial spirit was a 10th grade martial spirit. However, the essence of its power was at least equivalent to a 3rd grade martial spirit. It was not inferior to Feng Jixing's violet electric flame wolf. This was enough to explain everything. Slowly sinking her spiritual sense into Yi, she saw a stretch of emerald green. This time she did not know what kind of spiritual fruit the 7 luminaries demon emperor had planted in the sea. Lin Muyu slowly landed on the ground. The emerald green was made of vines that grew very vigorously. On the vines there were large and moist fruits that looked like melons. He plucked one and bit down. The juice instantly burst out. So sweet and fragrant. Hey, where did this thief come from? The voice of the 7 luminaries demon emperor came from behind. Without turning her head, Lin Muyu laughed and said, "Demon emperor, you completely treat my Yi as your own personal property. You plant melons and beans whenever you want. You're too arrogant. You didn't even ask for my permission. Look at what you're saying. Didn't we already sign a contract?" The 7 luminaries demon emperor raised his eyebrows. Behind him was a blood-red cloak that fluttered in the wind. His dark red hair was tied behind his head, forming an exquisite braid. He looked very handsome. Perhaps it was because of the spiritual farm, but the 7 luminaries demon emperor's spiritual personality was becoming more and more complete. His spiritual body was almost completely reconstructed. He once again became the invincible 7 luminaries demon emperor. Lin Muyu couldn't help but be startled. She said, "Looks like your spiritual soul is becoming more and more powerful." The 7 luminaries demon emperor smiled slightly. "That's right. My spiritual soul has already recovered by at least 70%. It will soon form a complete God Emperor's spiritual soul. Lin Ruoji, are you jealous?" "Jealous my ass." Although Lin Muyu was extremely jealous, she still had an arrogant look on her face. She said, "Even if your spiritual soul is completely restored, you still don't have a body." Sigh. The 7 luminaries demon emperor smiled faintly and said, "Lin Muyu, I, the 7 luminaries demon emperor, have traveled the heaven realm, the purgatory and the human realm for hundreds of thousands of years. I have seen countless people, but I only look at you in a different light. To be honest, I originally wanted to seize your soul, seize your body and make it mine. Within the 3 realms, your body is probably the most suitable for me. However, we have known each other for so long, and I don't want to see the day you become a soul without a master. How about this? Before I leave, I will teach you the 7 luminaries' profound energy. You can learn as much as you can. Consider it as a final gift from me, the 7 luminaries demon emperor, to you." "Why, you want to leave?" Lin Muyu suddenly froze. She actually felt a sense of loss in her heart. That's right, after being in the Shattered Cauldron realm for so long, every time she faced danger, there would always be someone who would silently help her. Although the 7 luminaries demon emperor had always wanted to seize her body, in the end he had always been helping her. Suddenly, the 7 luminaries demon emperor said that he wanted to leave, and she actually felt a sense of reluctance in her heart. The 7 luminaries demon emperor's spiritual soul was residing in Lin Muyu's Yi, so she could naturally sense the changes in his emotions. She couldn't help but laugh and say, "Stinking brat, you are usually so domineering, why are you so wishy-washy now? This isn't the Lin Ruoji we know. Brat, when my spiritual soul is complete, I will have enough divine power to leave your Yi and reconstruct my physical body. However, I still have to leave in the end. You will have to walk your own path in the future. My journey is to the vast heaven realm, where there are many gods, and your journey is to this chaotic world where there are iron horses and gold spears. Take care of yourselves. Now you can sleep. I will impart the power of the last 3 luminaries to you. How much you can comprehend will depend on yourself." Lin Muyu nodded lightly, closed her eyes and fell asleep. Not long after, images flashed past her mind. The sea of stars, the forest of evil spirits and so on. Not long after, waves of profound energy violently attacked her soul and body without mercy. The 7 luminaries demon emperor was such a person. He was called a demon by the gods of the heaven realm, so how kind could he be? For Lin Muyu to be able to consume the 7 luminaries' profound energy, it was his good fortune. If he couldn't, it meant that he didn't have this kind of fate. He could only blame himself if his body exploded and he died. Of course, the 7 luminaries demon emperor had actually been merciful. Otherwise, the profound energy attack could have been even more violent. It wouldn't have been a problem to burn Lin Muyu's central nervous system in an instant. In front of the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor's powerful God-Emperor Godhead, even if Lin Muyu's soul had strengthened quite a bit through cultivation, he was still as weak as a chicken. Although he was asleep, the pain that Lin Muyu was enduring was incomparably clear. He couldn't help but clench his teeth, furrow his brows and let out miserable howls. At the same time there was an a-woo sound in his mind. It was the Acatosaurus's cry. It had signed a main pet contract with Lin Muyu, so naturally, it was the same as Lin Muyu, sharing the pain brought by the 7 luminaries' profound energy attack. It was really hard on that tender little fellow. No, it had already lived for 1,000 years, so it couldn't be considered a little fellow. Chapter 290. Spring had arrived in the Qinling Mountains. The snowy peaks quickly melted, revealing the endless green peaks below. The south of the Qinling Mountains was a fertile land where the people of the southern ridge lived. 1,000 miles to the south, there were 3 misty peaks that pierced through the clouds. One could faintly see spirit cranes flying among them. These spirit cranes had lived for more than 10,000 years. They were the crystallization of the spirit of heaven and earth. These spirit cranes were born kind and would never take the initiative to attack humans. This was also the reason why these 3 peaks were called sacred peaks. Between the steep ancient path, a group of people was slowly walking. This group of people was clustered around an old man in a white robe. This white robe was embroidered with golden purple flowers, and the hem was decorated with small purple gems. This old man looked to be around 60 years old. His eyes were faintly glowing as he lightly breathed. On the side, a person in military attire cupped his fists and said, "Your Highness, is that person really worth our effort?" "Yes." The head that was called Your Highness said, "He may be the only god in the mortal world. As long as we can win his support, great things can be expected. General Jiao, you will know when you see him. The last time I saw him was 20 years ago, but after so many years his every move seems to be right in front of me." Jiao was startled and said with a smile, "A person that can make the Southern Guardian King cross thousands of mountains and rivers to come to this barren land must be extraordinary. This subordinate will wait and see. Later when you see him you must be respectful. Don't talk nonsense." "Yes." About 2 hours later the Southern Guardian King Jiao and the others finally reached the top of the mountain. On the top of the mountain, there was a golden palace that pierced through the clouds. It was like the palace of a god that had fallen into the mortal world. Outside the palace, several servants in plain clothes were waving brooms and sweeping the fallen leaves on the ground. When the Southern Guardian King and the others came close, they raised their heads and asked, "What are you all doing?" The Southern Guardian King respectfully cupped his fists and said, "The Southern Guardian King Qin Yi greets the Celestial Supreme Luo Lan. I hope the Celestial Supreme can grant me an audience." The servant smiled and said, "Your Highness, please go back. The Celestial Supreme has not seen anyone in the mortal world for many years." Qin Yi was taken aback. "This..." Jiao angrily put his hand on the hilt of his sword and yelled, "You are so unreasonable. Our Lord has come to invite him, but he is so rude. He doesn't even let him see the door. What kind of logic is this?" The attendant smiled. "General, Senior Immortal was originally one of the gods in the heaven realm. He cultivated in the mortal realm and did not want to come into contact with the mortal world. I hope General can understand." "I understand you." Jiao had a violent temperament. He drew his sword and slashed. The blade was filled with doqi. He was going to split the attendant into 2. The Southern Guardian King wanted to stop him, but it was too late. However, at this moment, a faint smile appeared on the attendant's face. He suddenly let out a shout that was like a golden bell, and the sound waves struck the surrounding people to the point that they could not move at all. However, Jiao's sword could not continue slashing down no matter how hard he tried. It was as if his body was no longer under his control. Domain. This was the power of a domain. This unassuming sweeper was actually a sanctuary powerhouse. Jiao was dumbfounded. Qin Yi hurriedly cupped his fists and said, "My subordinate does not know the proper etiquette, please forgive him. Qin Yi only wants to see Senior Immortal once and listen to a few words of advice from Senior Immortal. This trip will not be in vain." The waiter sighed. Since that's the case, come with me. But you're alone. Yes. Qin Yi tidied up his sleeves and followed the attendant into the golden hall. He saw that the hall was filled with gold and jade, and there were a few towering trees planted there. These trees did not wither in the winter and were still green, which was amazing. Qin Yi was very respectful and followed the attendant all the way to the end of the hall. After opening the hall door, a tyrannical Qi immediately hit him in the face. Although Qin Yi had the Qin family's bloodline like Qin Jin, he had not comprehended the god-binding chains. His cultivation was only at the first level of the earth realm. He was pushed back several steps and fell to the ground. Only then did he slowly crawl up and kneel on the ground. He walked into the hall and said sincerely, "Southern Guardian King Qin Yi greets Senior Immortal Luo Lan." Inside the hall, an old man with white hair and beard sat on a throne. His divine aura was restrained and he wore a white robe. There were more than 10 people sitting on both sides of him. Each of them seemed to have an imposing manner. "Your Highness Southern Guardian King, we meet again." Luo Lan opened her eyes and smiled at Qin Yi. Qin Yi hurriedly knelt down and cupped his fists, saying, "Yes. To be able to see Senior Immortal again, Qin Yi's death is enough." "Tell me, why have you come here?" Luo Lan asked. Qin Yi said in a low voice, "In this world, Qin Jin has ascended to the throne and used powerful officials. The warlords of North Ridge have already established a separatist regime. They have levied taxes and plundered innocent women to make them their concubines. The heavens are angry and the people resent them. They have caused many lives to be torn apart. The emperor is so cruel and inhumane that the heavens and earth mourn. Qin Yi is untalented, but I am willing to unite the vassals of South Ridge and overthrow the emperor. I want people to be benevolent and all lives are equal. I want to build a country of righteousness and harmony and give the people a chance to live an equal life. So, Qin Yi is bold enough to ask Senior Immortal to come out of seclusion and pacify the world for me. How dare you?" A big man with a curly beard on Luo Lan's right shouted, "Qin Yi, who do you think you are? How dare you try to order Senior Immortal? You are too arrogant." Qin Yi hurriedly knelt down again. "Senior Immortal, if not for me, please do it for the people of the world." Luo Lan smiled slightly, raised his palm and pushed lightly. Immediately, an invisible force quickly helped Qin Yi up. Then Luo Lan stood up and stepped out, but with a "chi la" sound he stepped into a crack in space. In the next second his figure appeared at the entrance of the hall 100 meters away. Looking at the vast clouds in the sky, Luo Lan said lightly, "King of South Subduing, do you really want to fight for the people of the world?" Qin Yi turned around and said humbly, "Yes, after obtaining the world, Qin Yi will never call himself emperor." "Is that so?" Luo Lan smiled and said, "Qin Yi, do you know why I, Luo Lan, am unwilling to ascend to the heaven realm after 10,000 years? Why? Because." Luo Lan narrowed his eyes and said, "Because the gods of the heavens cannot tolerate the gods of the lower realm. Instead of being reduced to the bottom in the heaven realm, it is better to live freely and happily in the human realm. What do you think? Senior Immortal is wise." "Can you?" "Yes." Luo Lan's gaze seemed to pierce through Qin Yi's heart. She said lightly, "I don't care if you are doing this for the people of the world, and I don't care if you ascend to the throne after obtaining the world, but if you want me to help you, you must promise me one thing." "Senior Immortal, please say it." Qin Yi was a little excited. Luo Lan smiled and said, "After you obtain the world, you must rebuild the shrine and worship me, Luo Lan. In addition, you must take out 20% of the annual tax revenue from the national treasury and offer it to me. As long as you fulfill these 2 conditions, I will leave the mountain and help you obtain the world." Qin Yi's eyelids trembled a little. 20% of the nation's tax revenue, Luo Lan was really demanding an exorbitant price. However, the temptation of a God-state expert was too great. Qin Yi couldn't resist it and immediately cupped his fists and said, "Qin Yi agrees. When can Celestial Venerable follow Qin Yi down the mountain?" Luo Lan waved her hand, "Any time. At the same time, the 7 Saint Realm Masters under me can also be ordered." Qin Yi nodded, "Yes, thank you, Senior Immortal Luo Lan." Luo Lan smiled and looked up at the vast mist in the sky again. "What is the heavenly Tao? It's just a matter of power." Everyone in the Saint Peak, listen up, Follow me to the north of the mountain and kill that greedy emperor. Yes, Senior Immortal. Qin Yi bowed to the ground, but he could not help but have a smug smile on his face. Flap, flap, flap. The messenger bird flapped its white wings and gently landed on the greenhouse of the spiritual medicine department. It hopped to Chu Yao's hand. Chu Yao could not help but smile. She hugged the messenger bird and took out the scroll inside the tube. She opened it and saw Chu Huayin's handwriting. The Valkyrie wood has been found. Brother will carve it for you within a month. Chu Yao couldn't help but giggle and muttered to herself, Big brother is really serious. On the side, a female alchemist smiled and said, Deacon Chu Yao, your brother is now the commander of the Flying Mount camp. Your elder brother, Chu Huayin, is now the commander of the Flying Mount Battalion. I heard that the Flying Mount Battalion has set up a camp outside the northern forest of the imperial capital and conducts drills every day. As a commander, he must be extremely busy with military affairs. You actually asked him to carve some exquisite pearl for you. This younger sister is really annoying. You're asking for a beating. Chu Yao waved her fist and said with a smile, You don't know, but there is a legend in my hometown, Silver Fir City. Using the sturdy Valkyrie wood to make exquisite pearls and carving the appearance of the person you care about around the pearls, it can bless them and keep them safe. The female alchemist smiled. Then tell me what kind of appearance is carved on this exquisite pearl. Chu Yao's face turned red. There are 4 people in total. One is me, one is my brother, one is Sister Xianxia, and the last one. Who is the last one? The female alchemist jokingly said, Let me guess, it must be a Deacon Lin from the Holy Temple opposite our spiritual medicine division. I heard that he is also a general who protects the nation, a high-ranking official. Chu Yao laughed and scolded, I taught you to refine medicine every day, but you're not good at it. You actually know so much about these trivial matters. You is even busier than my brother, and he hasn't come to the spiritual medicine division to see me for many days. You can go to the spiritual medicine division to see him. I'm a girl, I have to be reserved. Oh, our Deacon Chu Yao is actually so reserved, hee hee. Stupid girl, I'll teach you first. After fooling around for a while, Chu Yao's expression suddenly darkened. Xiaolon, should we make a trip to the Divine Marquis's residence and visit Sister Xianxia? The alchemist named Xiaolon nodded. Yes, I heard that the Divine Marquis Xing Yifan moved his family to Tianshu province, but Xianxia insisted on not following the Divine Marquis back. She even threatened to kill herself, so the Divine Marquis left a few generals in the Divine Marquis's residence to protect Xianxia. Unfortunately, Lord Chu Huayin promised that he would never see Xianxia again. Why can't 2 people who love each other be together? Chu Yao sat there absent-mindedly, pursing her red lips. Maybe they don't want to leave, they just want to watch over each other in Lanyan City. Xiaolon. Chapter 291. 10 days passed in the blink of an eye. 100,000 arrows had already been refined into white diamond arrowheads, and they had been handed over to Luo Jian to be delivered to Dragon Cliff Mountain. Lin Muyu's understanding of the 7 luminaries' profound energy had also deepened to the 6th luminary's realm. Over the past few days he had been constantly, secretly eating the spirit fields planted by the 7 luminaries' demon emperor in the sea, and the strength of his spirit soul had increased at an extremely fast pace. He could already easily control the 5th luminary's power of 5 elements 8 desolation, and he had even forcefully activated his battle energy and could barely use the profound energy of the 6 luminaries' heaven and earth tribulation. Only the 7th luminaries, the strongest form of the 7 luminaries' star transformation, had not been able to gain a basic understanding of it. As a result, the 7 luminaries' demon emperor had often called him a weak chicken. But in reality, this fellow, who was as weak as a chicken, was able to use the 6 luminaries' heaven and earth tribulation with merely the cultivation of the 2nd level of the heaven realm. This had already caused the 7 luminaries' demon emperor to sigh in admiration. However, the 7 luminaries' demon emperor was naturally competitive and arrogant, so other than scolding others, his words were as precious as gold. As a result, he would not praise Lin Muyu with even a single word. Early in the morning, the 50,000-strong army of the Tianchong Legion gathered outside Lanyan City to escort the monarch and Prince Yuning on their eastern patrol. Naturally, Lin Muyu, Feng Jixing, Chu Huayin and the other important generals had to send them off as well. A thick fog rose from the forest outside the city, and the fog turned into strands of dew that fell on Qin Yin's body, wetting the ends of her hair. Even when she blinked her eyes, tiny droplets of dew would slide down her slender eyelashes. The war drums thundered. This time the Eastern Patrol was like an expedition. Qin Jin was dressed in golden armor, and at his waist hung the Desolation Sword, which symbolized imperial authority. His face was full of smiles as he chatted cheerfully with Prince Yuning Qin Yin, while Qin Yin's beautiful face was filled with reluctance and worry. "Xiao Yin, don't be so worried. It's not like Imperial Father won't come back." Qin Jin looked at his daughter dotingly and said, "While Imperial Father is patrolling the East, you must be more humble in managing government affairs. Remember, if you encounter any problems, ask Chu Lei Hong and the Right Minister. They are all important officials of the Empire and will be able to provide you with the correct opinions. You cannot slack off in military affairs either. Feng Jixing, Chu Huayin, and Qin Lei control all of the troops defending the imperial capital." "Yes, Imperial Father, I understand. You have to be careful along the way and take care of yourself. Don't worry." Qin Jin smiled and nodded. Then he looked deeply at Lin Muyu and said, "You protect your little sister Xiao Yin and wait for father to return from his tour. Do you understand?" Lin Muyu cupped her fists and said, "Don't worry, Imperial Father. I will definitely ensure Xiao Yin's safety." "Then I'm relieved." Qin Jin smiled and said loudly, "East Patrol, depart." The war drums rumbled once more and the frontline heavy cavalry set off. The Tianchong Legion had a total of 90,000 soldiers, but there were less than 30,000 heavy cavalry. This was enough to show how valuable cavalry was. This time the cavalry had all set off for the East Patrol, while the Central Army was guarded by shield soldiers and pikemen. The rear army was guarded by archers. The 50,000-strong army set off in a majestic manner and left Lanyan City. Qin Yin looked at the back of the East Patrol with a lost look in her eyes. Beside her, Tang Xiaoxi said, "Xiao Yin, let's go back as well. It's cold outside, don't freeze your body." Qin Yin nodded and frowned slightly. "Xiaoxi, I keep feeling a little uneasy. I really hope that Imperial Father can cancel this East Patrol." "Why? Are you worried about the Prince of Southern Defense, Qin Yi?" Tang Xiaoxi asked with a smile. Qin Yi nodded and said, "Imperial Uncle Qin Yi has not come to the capital to see Imperial Father for many years. Moreover, I heard that he is actively training soldiers in Lingnan. 10 years ago there were already 200,000 soldiers in Lingnan, but who knows how many there are now. The secret agents that the capital sent to Lingnan reported that there are at least 500,000 soldiers in Lingnan." 500,000. Tang Xiaoxi chuckled. "Don't worry. Don't forget that these 500,000 soldiers may not be loyal to the Prince of Southern Defense. After all, there are still people like Earl Xiang, Lord Manning, and General Ling Yu. Moreover, there are military camps of the Empire every 10 miles to the north of the Qinling Mountains. As long as the soldiers of Lingnan leave the pass to the north, they will be discovered immediately. It can be said that if the Prince of Southern Defense really wants to rebel, he has no chance of winning." "I hope so." Qin Yin still looked worried. She turned to look at Lin Muyu, only to find that he was holding a black ball in his hand and chatting with Chu Huayin. "Brother Chu, is this the legendary Linglong Pearl?" "Is what's wrong? Isn't it small and exquisite?" Chu Huayin glared. "Damn, it's about the size of a duck egg. Do you dare to say that it's very exquisite?" Lin Muyu also widened her eyes. "What's more, what's that thing carved on it? Looks like a big yellow dog. You gave Big Sis Chu Yao's birthday present this thing?" Chu Huayin glared and said, "Yao asked me to carve characters on all 4 sides of the Linglong Pearl. It just so happens that the character on this side is you. This is what you look like, not a big yellow dog." Lin Muyu continued to widen her eyes. "It's obviously a big dog with a big tail. How can you say that it looks like me? Brother Chu, we can't be so unreasonable. Brother Feng, do you think this looks like me?" Feng Jixing grabbed the reins and raised his head to drink the wine in the gourd. After stretching his head to take a look, he said, "Hey, Chu Huayin's carving skills are indeed extraordinary. Who else could it be if it wasn't you? You don't blame me. Who asked Chu Huayin to treat me to this pot of wine?" Lin Muyu glared at him and said, "You're the most unprincipled person in our group." Qin Yin was speechless for a while. She coughed and said, The military police battalion has already announced countless times that we are not allowed to drink during missions. General Feng, as the commander of the Imperial Guards, you are drinking during a mission. What should you do? With a paw sound, Feng Jixing threw the gourd in his hand to the ground, causing the smell of wine to splatter all over the place. He looked extremely angry. Who stuffed this gourd into my hand and lied to me that it was water? There's no trust between people at all. This is simply shameless. Tang Xiaoxi was speechless. I wonder who is the shameless one. A few days later at night, Lin Muyu was still facing the sky full of starlight. She stood alone in the inner hall of the sacred hall and looked up at the stars. The dark force in her palm surged, but she could not transform the power of the stars. It was as if the 7 glorious stars' transformation was isolated from her body. Sigh. He held his breath for a while, but his battle energy quickly dissipated. He let out a long sigh and was slightly disappointed. In his Yi-Hai, the voice of the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor came. The 7 glorious stars transformation is an absolute art that I spent a whole 3,000 years to comprehend. Do you think it's that easy to learn? The power of the stars is the most mysterious power in the universe. An ordinary human body cannot withstand it at all. You are just a mortal now, so don't be discouraged. Take your time. Lin Muyu said, Demon Emperor, how do you feel as a god? God? The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor was stunned. He smiled and said, what can I feel? I'm just invincible. Everyone is afraid of me, respects me and obeys my orders. Other than that, it's loneliness, endless loneliness. Loneliness. Lin Muyu smiled. Speaking of which, I'm also lonely now. The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor could not help but laugh. You're lonely because you miss women. I'm lonely because I'm invincible. Don't you think it's shameful? Who said that? I don't miss women. Bah, I'm living in your Yi-Hai. Do you think I don't know what you're thinking? The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor laughed mockingly. Weak chicken, I know your heart is filled with Her Highness Qin. And, to be honest, Qin is a rare beauty. This emperor has roamed the universe for hundreds of thousands of years and has not seen many women who are as beautiful as her. It's rare that an ugly dog like Qin could have such a beautiful descendant. If I were you, I would go to Zetian Palace and sleep with the princess while the emperor is not at home. Lin Muyu glared. That's why you're called the Demon Emperor. Everyone wants to beat you up. Ah, brat, it's fine if you don't call me teacher, but you actually dare to mock me. Is there a disciple like you? If I knew this would happen, I would have taught you the 7 luminaries mantra in reverse. That way you'd be better off dead than alive, hee. Lin Muyu could not help but feel a chill in her heart. Don't scare me. Speaking of which, Demon Emperor, I've been feeling uneasy for the past few days. I don't know what's going on. Could it be an ominous sign? The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor smiled faintly. An ominous sign? Don't forget you have a strand of my divine power in your body. Since you're feeling uneasy, it's definitely not as simple as an omen. It's more likely that something is really going to happen. Your divine power is stronger than mine. You should be able to sense that something is going to happen, right? No, I'll be confused if I'm too concerned. What happens on this mainland has nothing to do with me. It doesn't matter who lives or dies, so I won't feel uneasy. The Demon Emperor spoke very calmly. In fact, he really did not care about these things. Lin Muyu took a deep breath and turned to look at a temple guard behind her. Call Luo Jian from the Longdan army camp. Yes. Not long after, Luo Jian rode his horse into the temple. After dismounting, he asked, Madam, what's wrong? Is something the matter? Nothing for now. Lin Muyu said faintly, go to the Dragon Rocky Mountain personally and pass the order. Let the Longdan army camp maintain its vigilance and be ready to go out at any time. Don't slack on any training and wait for my orders. Yes, madam. With this, Lin Muyu felt a little more at ease. With the Longdan army camp around, at least they would not be caught off guard in any situation. Thousands of miles away in the Qinling Mountains, spring had arrived and it was the rainy season at this time. It was drizzling in the air, and this rain lasted for 3 consecutive days as if it would not stop. In the darkness of the night, a group of people in green straw raincoats led horses draped in green grass as they walked slowly on the mountain path. The morning light shone from the eastern sky and shone on the mountains. Suddenly, Countless people in green raincoats could be seen leading horses and holding weapons as they quietly crossed the Qinling Mountains. Chapter 292. Thud, thud, thud. The sound of horse hooves could be heard hurriedly. The messenger quickly entered the flying mount camp in the north of the city and presented the letter to him. Commander, a letter from Lady Lin Muyu from the Divine Temple. Oh, a letter from you. Chu Huayin smiled and opened the letter. There was a line of words written on it that wasn't very nice. Recently I've been feeling uneasy. I'm afraid that there will be changes in the empire. As the commander of the Flying Mount camp, elder brother should send more scouts to patrol around the North Ridge province to maintain vigilance in the capital. Sincerely you. Commander, what's the matter with General Lin Muyu? A cavalry captain asked. Chu Huayin frowned and said, You said that he has an ominous premonition that something will happen to the empire. Men, have the East Patrol team sent back any news? How is Her Majesty's current situation? A deputy general cupped his fists and said, We just sent back a letter last night. Everything is safe. Her Majesty has already met the Prince of South Garrison, Qin Yi. The three brothers should be enjoying fishing by the fairy lake now. Good. Chu Huayin took a deep breath and said, Captain Li, pick 500 people from the Flying Mount camp and form a team of 5. Bring dry rations and divide them into 100 teams to patrol around the Earth Star Province, North Ridge Province and Songnan Province. Once there are any abnormal movements, immediately report to me by messenger bird. I'll leave this matter to you. You must do a good job. Yes, Lord Commander. The cavalry captain cupped his fists and immediately turned to leave. Chu Huayin frowned under the light of the oil lamp. He looked up at the generals and said, Have there been any replies to the letters sent to the Seven Seas Province and Cloud Province? Have Duke Lan and Duke Yun agreed to send troops to make up for the emptiness of the capital's military forces? A cavalry captain stepped forward and said respectfully, Duke Yun has replied. He said that he is currently preparing for the rations and war horses. In a few days he will send 30,000 cavalry to the capital to protect Her Highness Yin. There's still no news from Duke Lan's side. He's probably still brooding over young General Lin Muyu killing Tang Bin. Chu Huaijin gently punched the table and said, Tang Lan, don't forget that Xiaoxi is still in Lanyan City. If something happens in Lanyan City, can Xiaoxi stay out of it? The cavalry commandant said, Commander, should we inform Commander Feng Jixing about this patrol? Yes. Chu Huaimian nodded and said, I'll personally make a trip to the Imperial Army's encampment tomorrow morning. The Imperial capital's defenses are too weak at the moment. There are only 50,000 soldiers. If anything happens, I'm afraid these 50,000 soldiers won't be able to defend the massive Lanyan city. At the side, a military officer laughed and said, Lord Commander, you don't have to worry so much. The Empire is at peace. Moreover, His Highness, the Prince of Zhenan and His Majesty are on patrol at Fairy Lake. What other changes can there be when the North and the South are together? Chu Huaimian looked at him deeply and said, Lin Muyu, have you seen this person before? I haven't. Then you can get to know him. Yu's actions are always unexpected. His predictions are most likely not wrong. No, I have to go to the Imperial Army's encampment now. Bring 500 soldiers with me. Yes. In the Imperial Army's encampment under the yellow light, Feng Jixing was wrapped in a blanket. He was holding Xiang Wentian's 7 Victorious Tactics scroll and reading it carefully. He sneezed frequently and his face was pale. Lord Commander, Commander Chu of the Flying Mount Battalion requests an audience. A guard outside the tent said respectfully. Let him in. Watch the tea. Yes. When Chu Huaimian entered the tent with 2 cavalry commandants, he couldn't help but be stunned. Feng Jixing, are you sick? It's just a cold. It's just a minor illness. Feng Jixing smiled and said, I will circulate my energy to force the cold poison out of my body. You have such good skills, why do you need a medical officer? Chu Huaimian sat down and moved the brazier in front of Feng Jixing. He said, with your cultivation, Feng Jixing, it's not easy for you to catch a cold. Old Chu, you didn't come to the Imperial Army's encampment so late just to treat me to a drink, right? Of course not. Chu Huaimian sat down and said, these days His Majesty has gone to Tianshu province, and His Highness is in charge. Feng Jixing, don't you feel a little uneasy? Yes. Feng Jixing said seriously, the price of the Yinhua wine in the winery is high, the women in the Yihong brothel are getting uglier, the glutinous rice in the capital's rice shop is always mixed with sticky rice, and those bastards in the Ministry of Revenue are always late in paying the army. I can't live like this anymore, I feel uneasy every day. Faster thief. Chu Huaimian stood up. Be serious or I'll leave. Feng Jixing laughed. Alright, I won't joke around anymore. Tell me what's the matter. Chu Huaimian said, in the past 7 days, the Fire Sparrow Division in Lanyan City has not received a single case regarding the bandits in the Qinling Mountains. The hunters near the Qinling Mountains are complaining that all the prey in the mountains suddenly disappeared without a trace, as if they had all been killed. In addition, the hundreds of hostels and inns in the villages outside Lanyan City are almost all full, and people even have to go to Lanyan City to buy food. All of this is so unusual. Feng Jixing looked at Chu Huaimian with his clear eyes and said, someone has taken advantage of the situation and entered the capital, right? Yes, and there are quite a few of them. Chu Huaimian said lightly, I've sent people to investigate. In terms of food rations, there are at least 200,000 people who have entered the territory of the capital. This is very unusual. But the patrol teams that come and go have not found any clues, right? Yes, how do you know? Because the Imperial Guards have also sent out many scouts. Feng Jixing looked at him lightly and said, do you think you are the only ones who feel uneasy? My premonition is even stronger. This storm is finally coming to the capital. Who could it be? Chu Huaimian clenched his fists and said, is there really nothing we can do? Yes. Feng Jixing smiled slightly and said, tomorrow I'll ask Her Highness Yin to make an announcement. Martial law will be imposed in the North Ridge province. Merchants who come and go must be checked carefully. If they find any metal weapons, they must be taken away. How about it? The Empire values martial arts. This is too much. How many people are they going to take away? This is the only way. All right then. At the same time in the Five Valleys city, a group of people wearing black cloaks entered the governor's manor. They were led into the meeting hall by a servant. Governor Si Kongfan was dressed in black armor with a sword hanging from his waist. Behind him was a group of trusted generals. He cupped his fists and smiled. Si Kongfan greets General Ji Yao. I wonder why General Ji Yao has come to visit so late at night. The person who came took off his cloak and revealed a face with a sinister smile. It was Ji Yao. He cupped his fists and said, Governor Si Kongfan hasn't realized that a storm is coming? Si Kongfan sneered. I don't know what kind of storm it is. Could it be that it will topple the Qin Empire? But General, as a general of Lingnan, you came to Lingnan without His Majesty's imperial edict. Don't you know it's a crime? Crime. Jiao smiled. He pointed to the south and said, do you know that there are a total of 200,000 Lingnan elite soldiers waiting for my order to raze this city to the ground? Si Kongfan was furious. He pulled out his sword and shouted, Ji Yao, as one of the 7 generals of the empire, do you want to rebel? Rebel? Ji Yao laughed loudly. I'm just following the will of heaven and winning the hearts of the people. Qin Jin, this fatuous ruler, doesn't know how to govern a country. He only knows how to write poems and cook. How can such a fatuous ruler be the ruler of this continent? Si Kongfan, listen to me. The 4 provinces of Lingnan have formed an alliance to overthrow the monarchy and build a brand new Iha country. We don't believe in the supremacy of the monarchy. Instead, we believe in humanity and equality. Although you are one of the lackeys of the empire, you are still a famous general. If you surrender, you will still be the master of Five Valleys City. Otherwise, don't blame us for being merciless. You're courting death. Si Kongfan brandished his sword and slashed at Ji Yao. But just as the blade was about to land on Ji Yao's head, his body suddenly froze as an invisible wave of air blew past him. Behind Ji Yao, 2 black-robed experts had sinister smiles on their faces. They were both Saint Realm experts. Stubborn. You're courting death. Ji Yao laughed loudly. The sword on his waist flashed and the poor Si Kongfan's head fell to the ground. The group of generals behind him were dumbfounded. Ji Yao picked up Si Kongfan's head and said in a low voice, Everyone has the right to punish the lackeys of the empire. Behind me are two venerables with the cultivation of the realm of the Holy Realm. If you don't want to die, then obediently surrender to me. I can still guarantee that your son won't die." The group of generals put down their swords. Their faces were ashen. This was no longer a simple mutiny. It was a rebellion, a national rebellion. Early in the morning on the southern city wall of Five Valleys City, the guards were drowsy. An old soldier sat under the city wall, smoking a pipe. He squinted his eyes and looked into the distance. He said, "You lazy little bastards. How dare you sleep while on duty? Is your strength all on the belly of a whore?" It was drizzling in the air. The veteran pulled down his straw hat to cover his smoking pipe. He looked into the distance with blurred eyes. Suddenly he seemed to have an illusion. The green forest seemed to be moving slowly. He squinted his eyes and looked carefully again. That's right. It was really moving. He quickly clapped his hands and said, "Li er go zhang quan dan lu min zhao ritian, wake up. Quick, if you sleep again I will kill you." A few soldiers pulled the brim of their hats and stood up. They grumbled, "Old man, what are you doing? Why are you screaming like a ghost?" The old soldier pointed at the city wall. His arm was trembling. He said, "Look, is that forest moving?" A few young soldiers looked into the distance. They couldn't help but tremble. Their faces were pale. They said, "No, it's not the forest moving. It's the people in green cloaks. They are approaching the city. Oh my God, beat the drums." Yes. At this moment, a Chiliarch walked up to the city wall with a long spear. He said calmly, "There's no need to beat the drums. Go down and open the city gate to welcome our distinguished guests." Distinguished guests? The old soldier was dumbfounded. "General Zhao, welcome what distinguished guests?" "The brave soldiers of Lingnan Iha country." "I'm committing treason." The long saber flashed. The old soldier immediately fell into a pool of blood. The Chiliarch's face was vicious. "Go and open the city gate." Yes. The group of soldiers trembled. Chapter 293. Songnan province has fallen into the enemy's hands. The letter in his hand fell to the ground. Feng Jixing's face was full of shock. What a fast speed. Luo Lai and Zhang Wei were both shocked. Luo Lai asked, "How could it be so fast? General Si Kongfan is the new governor of the province. With him around, how could it fall so quickly?" "Si Kongfan has been killed." Feng Jixing said indifferently, "I don't know where Lingnan found a few divine domain experts from. Things are not looking good. Come, follow me into the palace to meet Her Highness Yin. The empire's turmoil has already begun." Yes. In Zetian Palace there were many officials. Everyone was restless. Many of them were gritting their teeth, but there was nothing they could do. When Feng Jixing stepped into the palace with Zhang Wei and Luo Lai, Lin Muyu and Chu Huijin also came forward. Chu Huijin said, "General Feng also received the news of Songnan province's fall?" "Yes, what did Her Highness say?" "There is no statement yet." Lin Muyu placed her hand on the hilt of her sword and followed Feng Jixing and Chu Huiying to the throne. She raised her head and saw that Qin Yin was already walking over with an exquisite cloak draped over her shoulders. Her silk skirt trailed behind her as two maids followed behind her respectfully. "Brother Yu, has Songnan province really fallen?" Qin Yin asked anxiously. "Yes." Lin Muyu cupped her fists and said, "I received the letter not long ago. According to the report from the spies I arranged in Songnan province, the scale of the rebellion in Lingnan is very large. They used more than 300,000 men and horses. Zhenan Wang Qin Yi conferred Ji Yao the title of Marshal Lin Yu and Long Qianlin as generals. They have already occupied Five Valley City. At most 5 days they will reach the capital." Qin Yin had a helpless look on her face. Imperial Father. Imperial Father is still in Tianshu province. Chu Huijin cupped his fists. His face was full of sadness as he said, "Your Highness, please forgive me for overstepping my bounds. I'm afraid His Majesty is already in danger." "Impossible." Qin Yin shook her head and said resolutely, "Father has brought many experts from the Imperial Guards, and he has also taken 3 experts from the third heaven of the Heaven Realm as guards from Dubhe province. With 100,000 soldiers accompanying him, it's impossible for anything to happen." Chu Huijin looked up at Qin Yin and said lightly, According to reliable information, Qin Yin has invited Luo Lan, a godly state expert who lives in seclusion on the sacred peak. Luo Lan also has several sanctuary experts under her command. If I'm not wrong, Luo Lan has disguised herself as Qin Yi's personal guard. No matter how many experts your majesty has around you, how could they be a match for a divine venerable one? Tears instantly filled her eyes. Qin Yin stood there silently and murmured, "Imperial father will be fine. Imperial father will be fine." Lin Muyu stepped forward and gently hugged Qin Yin. Now he was Qin Yin's only support. He whispered in Qin Yin's ear, "Xiao Yin, the Prince of Zhenan has committed treason. Everyone is panicking. You are the only one who can support the overall situation. Be strong. Imperial father may be fine, but before that you must guard Lanyan City." Qin Yin quietly wiped away her tears. Lin Muyu took a few steps back, but he still stood among the officials. At this time Minister Luo Xing cupped his fists and said, "Your Highness, the Prince of Zhenan, Qin Yi's act of treason is really stupid. As the saying goes, his words are not justified. As long as we send an elite army to Songnan province immediately, they will definitely be easily defeated." Feng Jixing couldn't help but laugh. The 200,000 elite soldiers of Bailing City are a motley crew? This is really a big joke. Lin Yu is one of the 7 divine generals of the present age. He is well versed in the art of war and strategy. Together with Long Qianlin, who can't be underestimated, if we underestimate our opponents, I'm afraid the history of the empire will really end today. I hope your Highness will understand. Luo Xing raised his eyebrows and said, "General Feng has been leading the imperial army to occupy the imperial capital for many years and hasn't participated in any battles. No wonder he is like a tiger whose claws have been sharpened." "Is that so?" Feng Jixing sneered. Qin Yin frowned and looked at the crowd and asked, "Chu Chu, before imperial father left, he asked you to assist Xiao Yin. At this moment, what do you think we should do?" Chu Chu's brows were tightly locked as he said, "If Luo Lan really came, the empire would not be able to escape this catastrophe, but we cannot sit still and await death." His Highness personally wrote a letter and sent it to the Seven Seas City and Muyu City to request for reinforcements. It is necessary to let the Seven Seas City and Muyu City's military forces come out in full strength to turn the tide. In addition, in order to prevent any accidents from happening to the letter, send trusted subordinates to these 2 cities on fast horses. Whether Lanyan City can be saved or not will depend on how many troops the Seven Seas City and Muyu City send out. Someone bring a pen and paper. Qin Yin's eyes flickered as she looked at the ministers and said, "Who is willing to go to Muyun City for me and ask grandfather to send out troops?" In the crowd, Yuan Xia's son Yuan Lian cupped his fists and said, "This general is willing to go." Qin Yin nodded. "Then I will have to trouble General Yuan Lian. If you can get reinforcements, I will pardon your father's crime of being defeated and promote him to the position of country protector general." "Thank you, your Highness." Yuan Lian was overjoyed. Qin Yin looked at Tang Xiaoxi, who was beside Lin Muyu, and said, "Shaoxi Qihai City? Only you are the most suitable person to go, so I will have to trouble you to make this trip." Tang Xiaoxi's eyes turned red and said, "Let others go. I want to stay in the imperial capital to accompany you and Mu." "No." Qin Yin's voice was full of determination. "There is a gap between Duke Lan and imperial father. You must go personally. Otherwise, I am worried that Duke Lan will not send troops to reinforce Lanyan City. Shaoxi, I am begging you, you must go on this trip." Tang Xiaoxi silently stood in the same place, her shoulders slightly trembling, and said, "Xiao Yin, if Lanyan City is really besieged, I will come back even if I can't get reinforcements." "Yes." Qin Yin nodded gently. Soon 2 letters were written and sent to Muyu City and Qihai City respectively. Tang Xiaoxi also led the snow pear war horse and was ready to set off. Lin Muyu accompanied them all the way to the main hall. He had mixed feelings. This time it was not a joke. Lanyan City might really fall. Zhenan Wang had sent out a hierarch expert. Perhaps this would be the last time he saw Tang Xiaoxi. "Mu." Tang Xiaoxi led the war horse and looked at him with red eyes and said, "Can you hug me again?" Lin Muyu was stunned and walked forward. Without hesitation he held Tang Xiaoxi's delicate body in his arms. Tang Xiaoxi trembled all over and tears came out of her eyes. She cried loudly, I'm afraid. I'm so afraid. I'm afraid that I won't see you again after I come back. I'm afraid. Lin Muyu gently stroked her long hair and said softly, Xiaoxi, don't be afraid. I promise you that I will wait for you in Lanyan City. Xiao Yin and I will wait here for you to come back and save us. You have to be quick. Tang Xiaoxi nodded her head, yes I will. With that she left Lin Muyu's arms. This time she did not look back. She turned over and mounted the horse, galloping away. In the blink of an eye she disappeared on the main road. Lin Muyu stood there in a daze. Looking at Tang Xiaoxi who was far away, he felt a sense of loss. A turmoil was right in front of him. How many more things could he lose? When he returned to the main hall, he found that the officials were arguing about whether to send troops or to defend Lanyan City. The minister's office and the Ministry of War argued until their faces were red with anger. Both sides did not give in at all. Moreover, Luo Xing and the Minister of War Lu Feng had many supporters in the imperial court. Dozens of people argued endlessly. It seemed that waiting for them to come up with a conclusion would take at least another 100 years. Feng Jixing, Qin Lei, Chu Huaying, Zhang Wei, and the other generals stood at the side with dark faces and did not speak. As for the senior officials who had made meritorious contributions such as Chu Chu, Lei Hong and Qin Hao, the dean of Aries College, they also remained silent, waiting for Qin Yin to come up with a decision. At this time, everyone was faintly uneasy and confused. Be quiet. Qin Yin lightly patted the armrest of the throne and said, should we take the initiative to attack or defend Lanyan City? Isn't there a conclusion? The Minister of War Lu Feng immediately cupped his fists and said, Your Highness, this old official thinks that we should defend. The Lingnan army is aggressive and they call themselves the volunteer army. Every time they arrive at a place, they seize the land of the local vassals and use the equal distribution system to divide the land to the local commoners. Therefore the volunteer army is supported by the commoners. There is even a letter saying that the people of Tsangnan province are already celebrating the volunteer army this morning. Nonsense. Luo Xing sneered and said, What volunteer army? They're just a motley crew. What is there to be afraid of? We still have 50,000 soldiers in Lanyan City and 40,000 soldiers in Qihai City. Adding the official army in Northridge province, we have more than 100,000 soldiers. I believe we have the power to fight. Moreover, we have Feng Jixing, Qin Lei, Lin Muyu and other new and fierce generals. In addition, the empire's #1 warrior, Du Hai, is about to be recalled. What volunteer army are we afraid of? You are the one who is talking nonsense. Seeing that the two sides were about to quarrel again, Qin Yin hurriedly coughed and looked at Lin Muyu and Feng Jixing. She asked, You General Feng, what do you think? Feng Jixing cupped his fists and said, There is Earthstar province to the south of Lanyan City and Tsangnan province to the east. Let's figure out the situation in these two provinces first. What I want to know is that our spies did not receive any news that the Lingnan army had crossed the Qinling Mountains. How did their army of hundreds of thousands come to the border of Northridge? In the crowd, the State General Ling Nantun cupped his fists and said, Your Highness, I know why. My spies in Lingnan have just reported back. The King of Zhenan used General Lin Yu's strategy. All the Lingnan army wore green coats and crossed the Qinling Mountains during the rainy season for 7 consecutive days. They called it green cowhide crossing the mountains. It is precisely because of this that we did not notice and they took advantage of the situation to occupy the Five Valley City. Feng Jixing frowned and said, Green cowhide crossing the mountains. Damn it, Qin Yin said. There are about 20,000 troops stationed in Earthstar province. Maybe we can mobilize this army. Lin Muyu cupped her fists and said, Your Highness, Earthstar province is in the south of the imperial capital and bears the brunt of the attack. If there is no accident, it has already fallen. At this moment, a messenger flew in from outside and said loudly, Your Highness, urgent report. Speak. Qin Yin's beautiful eyes were full of worry. The messenger panted and said, I just received a letter. Lingnan General Lin Yu led 100,000 troops to attack Cold Star City. Earthstar province has fallen. As expected. Feng Jixing felt a chill in his heart and said, Lingnan is aggressive and this general also thinks that we should defend. Lanyan City has been through thousands of years and has been repeatedly repaired. The city walls are very strong and there is enough food in the city. In addition to the large population, there will not be a shortage of civilian workers. As long as we defend, it should not be a problem to defend for a few months, enough to wait for the reinforcements from Mu City and Qihai City. Yes. Qin Yi nodded. Then we will defend. Chapter 294. His Highness has announced that all citizens are to enter the city immediately. The city gates will be closed after sunset. Without His Highness's order, the city gates will not be opened until the crisis is over. Zhang Wei stood on the city walls with a long saber in his hand, shouting at the citizens below the city. Lin Muyu, Feng Jixing and Chu Huaimiao stood at the side, helplessness written all over their faces. As a general of the empire, it's a disgrace to not come out and defend the city. Feng Jixing clenched his fists, his face full of anger. Chu Huaimiao said, "The enemy is strong while we are weak. This can't be helped. I just don't know when Qihai City and Muyu City will be willing to send out their troops. As long as they send out their troops, we will definitely be able to defeat the so-called volunteer army." Feng Jixing looked at Lin Muyu and asked, Do you want to summon your Longdan army camp to Lanyan City as well? No need. Lin Muyu shook her head and said, "I have already sent someone to the Longdan army camp to inform them to defend the city like us. Dragon Rocky Mountain is easy to defend but hard to attack. 1,000,000 soldiers won't be able to take it down in a short period of time. Leaving the Longdan army camp on Dragon Rocky Mountain can be used as a surprise attack. If there is a need, the Longdan army camp can also cooperate with us." Feng Jixing clapped his hands and chuckled. "That's good. I have seen Yu's Longdan army camp. Their combat power is terrifying, and their equipment is the best in the empire. To be honest, if there are less than 150,000 volunteers surrounding the city, we can open the city gates and fight. Our chances of winning are more than 70%. What if there are more than 200,000? Chu Huaimiao asked with a smile. Feng Jixing's expression darkened. Then we can only defend and not go out. The disparity in military strength is too great. Going out of the city is just suicide. Moreover, the other party has a godly state master and nearly 10 sanctuary masters." Lin Muyu stretched out her hand to sweep away the dust on the battlements, and the place that her palm touched was icy cold. She could not help but feel a chill in her heart as she said, "One do not know how is His Majesty's situation at Fairy Lake. There is actually no news at all. He had brought so many letters with him, could it be that he could not even send one back?" Feng Jixing frowned. "I hope His Majesty can turn misfortune into blessing. But to turn misfortune into fortune, if it was a great misfortune, how could it be resolved?" Late at night, Chu Huaying rode into the darkness of Tongtian Street. Not long after, he stopped in front of the Divine Marquis residence. After he dismounted, he looked at the lonely iron gates and hesitated for a moment before he walked forward and gently knocked. "Who is it?" A guard's voice came from inside. Commander of the Flying Mount Battalion, Chu Huaying greets Miss Xianxia. The guard immediately sneered. "So it's the famous General Chu Huaying. Didn't you say that you would not see my miss anymore?" "Yes, I will not see her. I only hope that Miss can talk to me through the door." Wait a moment." "Thank you." Not long after, Xianxia's gentle voice came from the other side of the iron gates. "Lord Chu, why are you visiting so late at night?" Chu Huaying cupped his fists and said, "Miss, Songnan Province and Earthstar Province have fallen one after another. Lanyan City is isolated and has lost. Miss Xianxia is the daughter of the Divine Marquis. Ji Yao and Lin Yu were once Divine Marquis Xing Yifun's subordinates. I believe they will not make things difficult for you. Miss, please leave the city immediately and look for the Divine Marquis in Tianshu Province." Xianxia smiled. "Lord Chu, I know what I am doing. Thank you for your concern. I will decide whether to stay or leave." Chu Huaying was anxious. He gritted his teeth and said, "Xianxia, you must leave now. The Lingnan army will arrive at the city at any time. If you don't leave now, I'm afraid you won't have another chance." "Huaying," Xianxia called out softly. "Didn't you say that you want to see me in the pugilistic world? If I leave now, we won't be able to see each other anymore. Go, I won't leave. If my husband dies on the battlefield, I'm willing to follow him. Chu Huaying's body trembled. His eyes were bloodshot. Xianxia, are you crazy? There was no more sound from inside the door. Chu Huaying stood outside the door for more than 2 hours. Then he led his horse away. In the early morning of the next day, the 30,000 Imperial Guards and the 17,000 soldiers of the Flying Mount Battalion had all entered Lanyan City and settled in the barracks around the 4 gates, making Lanyan City suddenly lively. However, all the people closed their doors and windows and lived in fear. They didn't know what would be waiting for them in the next moment, whether it would be death or a new life. Early in the morning, there was another heavy fog that shrouded Lanyan City. Wisps of dew slowly flowed down from Lin Muyu's armor. He stood guard on the north wall of Lanyan City. He didn't sleep a wink the whole night and looked rather tired. You go and sleep for a while. Feng Jixing frowned. Look at how haggard you look. If Her Highness saw you like this, I don't know how distressed she would be. Lin Muyu smiled and shook her head. I can't sleep. Brother Feng, can you sleep? I can't. Feng Jixing smiled bitterly and said, this might be our last battle. You still haven't received the letter from Fairy Lake? No, not even a single one. Sigh. Lin Muyu sighed. She pulled out the dragon spirit sword and gently wiped the dew on the blade with a white cloth. Brother Feng, are you afraid? Afraid? Feng Jixing smiled. What's there to be afraid of? I'm a soldier of the Empire. It's my honor to die in battle for the Empire. Moreover, heroes emerge in troubled times. Don't you think this is also a chance for us? I don't think so. Lin Mu shook her head. I'm very afraid. I am afraid of losing all the people and things I care about. I am afraid of losing Xiao Yin, Xiaoxi, and all of you. If I can choose, I would rather choose obscurity than to choose glory forged with blood. Perhaps what you said is right. Feng Jixing continued to sit beside Lin Muyu. He took out a wine gourd and gulped down a mouthful of strong wine. But this is life. The more you want to escape from this war, the more you can't escape it. You hate killing, but you must face everything in front of you. In this battle, our hands will be stained with blood. Just wait and see. Right at this moment, suddenly a papa sound came from the sky. A messenger bird rapidly landed on Feng Jixing's shoulder. He hurriedly took out the letter tube and swept his gaze across. His face was filled with astonishment as he said, so fast. The volunteer army's advance heavy cavalry is already less than 300 miles away from Lanyan City. They will arrive before sunset today. Damn it. Lin Muyu sheathed her sword and lightly said, are they so eager to destroy Lanyan City? Feng Jixing looked indifferent. Zhang Wei passed down the order. The whole city is on alert. Prepare for war in the afternoon. In addition, has the Tianchong army of Seven Seas City returned? Zhang Wei nodded. They will arrive in 2 hours. That's good. Not long after, the sound of hooves could be heard in the fog. A commander came to the city with a long saber. It was the Empire's #1 warrior, Du Hai. Behind him were densely packed soldiers with shields. They were all infantrymen of the Tianchong army. In addition, there was an endless stream of rations. Open the gate. Du Hai shouted. Feng Jixing stood on the city wall and shouted, General Du Hai, how many people did you bring back? Du Hai raised his head to take a look and said with a smile, so it's Commander Feng. The Tianchong army is no longer as strong as before. Suppressing Demon Pass lost close to 10,000 men, and His Majesty took away 50,000 men. Now there are less than 30,000 infantrymen and archers. Feng Jixing nodded. 30,000 is good. Come into the city. The Flying Mount camp will guard the south gate, the Imperial army will guard the north and east gates, and the Tianchong army will guard the west gate. What does General think? Thank you. I will lead my brothers to the west gate. Du Hai was a candid man. Although his military rank was higher than Feng Jixing's, he could follow Feng Jixing's orders to defend the city. He could be considered a good general. Moreover, the volunteer army was coming aggressively. There were generals everywhere in the empire who had defected and surrendered. Du Hai's willingness to return to Lanyan City to defend at this time was enough to prove his loyalty. After watching the Tianchong army enter the city, Lin Muyu also stood up slowly. Holding her sword, she said, Wei Chou, how is the situation in the Eagle Nest camp? Wei Chou cupped his fists and said, "All 724 brothers are on the north wall, ready to be deployed at any time." Good. Everyone is equipped with a bow. Once the volunteer army enters the shooting range, just shoot them. Yes, I understand. It was close to noon. The sun pierced through the clouds and dispersed the fog. The Lingnan army's footsteps were getting closer. More and more messenger birds were flying in the sky. The news sent chills down people's spines. Lin Yu had led 100,000 soldiers and left planet Earth province. They had entered North Ridge province and would arrive soon. In the direction of Tsangnan province, Marshal Ji Yao of the League of Volunteers led an army of 250,000 people to Tsangnan province. With Long Qianlin as the vanguard, they successively conquered 17 cities between Lanyan City and Wugu City. They would reach the city in 6 hours. Near the Qinling Mountains, the Lingnan army soldiers were seen entering North Ridge. There was no news from Fairy Lake. Lin Muyu, Feng Jixing, Chu Huaying, and Du Hai were responsible for defending the city. Qin Lei led the imperial guards to defend Zhe Tian Palace. The state general Ling Nantian supervised the battle. The entire Lanyan city was on the verge of a war. At this moment, Dubhe Province, Fairy Lake. The lake water had been dyed red with blood. Countless corpses floated on the surface of the lake. Most of the corpses had begun to rot and were bloated. They were being eaten by fishes. Flags of the Tianchong army and Longquan army floated on the water. The blood flowed for hundreds of miles. The entire Fairy Lake was dead silent. Messy footprints covered the mud on the lakeside. A man had sunk deep into the shallow mud. Water plants were entangled around his red and swollen neck. His eyes were wide open and filled with indignation and anger. His palms were in the shape of claws. His fingernails were cracked. He had fought many battles in his life, but he was not strong enough. That was why he had drowned. No matter how arrogant he was when he was alive, how he was one of the 9 Supremes and how he controlled the universe, he was just a cold corpse after death. You're tuning in to the Zhou Xian's Legacy YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.